Hey, home church leaders, it's me, Jonathan here, and today, as part of your training, I'm going to be talking to you about creating healthy group dynamics. Creating healthy group dynamics. So, grab a notebook and a pencil, please, and take some notes, because I'm going to give you 3 key aspects and 5 expectations for what we are expecting of you as leaders. So then when you're preparing for your home church groups and gatherings, you can refer back to this and know exactly what's expected of you and know why it's so important to have healthy group dynamics. So please take these notes. As we dive into this, I want to tell you the 3 key aspects first. And those are 1, pray, 2, foster communication, and 3, establish trust. These 3 things are absolutely essential to having a healthy group dynamic in your home churches, because prayer, of course, brings in the spiritual aspect of things. And we're not expecting you to simply pray, or not only pray with the people in your group, but pray for them. Even if it's just once a week, pray for the people in your group, because when you pray for them, the Holy Spirit's in it. When you pray for them, the Holy Spirit is guiding your thoughts, your words, your actions. So when you're with them, you're already prayed up for them, and then you get to pray with them, and the Holy Spirit will lead you. Second, foster communication. Communication is absolutely important, and when I say foster communication, I don't mean you communicate the whole time, but foster good communication. Be somebody who cares about giving other people a voice. Be somebody who cares about making sure everybody feels comfortable speaking, and I'm going to talk about that in the expectations later, but the second key aspect is to foster communication. And third, establish trust. It is so important to establish trust. If there's no trust in a group, if there's no sense of confidentiality, if there's no sense that what is said in the group stays in the group, then people will not speak. They will not open up. And if there's no sense, if people can't trust that what they're saying is actually going to be taken with sincerity and with empathy, then they won't open up. So as leaders, you need to establish trust. Please be somebody who cares about creating a trusting environment. Because when people know and they can trust you as a leader and they can trust all the members in their group, they will open up and you will see the depths of their heart, which is the beauty of ministry. So, as home church ministers and shepherds of those in our home churches, we must be absolutely intentional about creating group dynamics, because when everyone knows what to expect, they have a voice, and have a relationship with those around them, there's no stopping the growth that can occur. Let me read that again. When everybody knows what to expect, they have a voice, and have a relationship with those around them, there is no stopping the growth that can occur. Which means when you are leading a home church, it is of utmost importance for you to create healthy group dynamics. So let's dive into the expectations. I have 5 key expectations that we as Family Life administrators and Family Life organization staff are expecting of you. 1, set the expectations. The beauty of this is all you have to do is simply say, hey guys, let me tell you what to expect. So every time you have a home church, gather your people for 1 minute, or even while you're just talking in a circle and hanging out, just tell them, hey guys, we're gonna do this. And then as we gave you guys these sheets of paper, you can even read it off. Say, hey guys, today we're gonna connect for 15 minutes. We're gonna watch our online service for 1 hour, which involves worship and a sermon and prayer time. And then we're gonna discuss for 20 to 30 minutes. And then we're gonna pray for 10 to 15 minutes. And then you can either say you're gonna have a meal and refreshments, or you can dismiss. But it's as simple as that. Set the expectations. When people know what to expect, they're not taken off guard. And they'll have a calm demeanor, because they'll know what's next. They won't be like, oh, when are we gonna be done? But they know what's happening next. So set the expectations. Number 2, follow the 70-30 rule. If you were a small group leader in the past, you know this rule. The 70-30 rule basically says that members should speak 70% of the time and leaders should speak 30% of the time. So this is kind of counterintuitive, because as a leader, you think, I need to be the one speaking. I need to be the one presenting a message. But that's not true. Pastor Dan's already presented the message, because home churches are based on the Sunday service. So Pastor Dan has already given the message. Now your job as a home church minister, shepherd, leader, is to basically foster communication. Follow the 70-30 rule. You speak 30% of the time, they speak 70%. So your job as a leader is to basically ask questions, direct communication. Know where you're trying to get to and lead them there rather than just saying what you're trying to get to. Because the beauty is when people think that they've gotten to a conclusion, there's buy-in. They buy in. If you're trying to get somebody to understand that Jesus is Lord, if you just say Jesus is Lord, there's no buy-in because they don't understand or they haven't come to that conclusion themselves. But if you lead them down a series of questions to where they finally say, Jesus is Lord, then there's buy-in. Then they care about what the conclusion that they came up with. Does that make sense? I hope it does. But as a leader, your job is not to just present information, but to navigate conversation. And let me tell you something. There's people that love to talk a lot, and there's people that love to just sit back in silence. And even beyond extrovert versus introvert, beyond that, I want to tell you something. Oftentimes, it's the person who speaks the least that really needs to speak the most. I've had groups where somebody spoke so little for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I tried to get them to talk. I would just say, hey, so-and-so, what do you think about this? And they would say, I don't know. But after weeks of establishing trust, fostering communication, and prayer, they opened up. And when they opened up, it became absolutely clear to me as a leader that the people who were silent desperately needed to talk the most. So when you're following the 70-30 rule, please don't let somebody else, just one person, speak 70% of the time, but let your whole group speak. Follow the 70-30 rule. So we have set expectations as number 1. Follow the 70-30 rule, number 2. 3, keep the discussion positive and on track. Now, it's so easy in a group when you're having a bunch of people. It's sometimes like herding cats. Everybody wants to talk about different things, and people will take rabbit trails from what you're trying to talk about. And some people will take a negative spin on it. Somebody will just go rambling about some random occurrence that they had at work or whatever. But your job as a leader is to navigate and direct the conversation to be on track, to be positive. And I give you full authority upon the authority of Family Life as an organization. I give you the authority as a leader to shut down negative conversation, to shut down the random communication that pulls away from the actual task that you're trying to accomplish. So as a leader, if somebody goes all negative and gets all political and says, I disagree with this, and they start talking about things that nobody really cares about and it just creates tension, your job as a leader is to say, hey, you know what? Let's talk about that later. That's not what we're talking about right now. And I give you full authority to basically say to them, shut up. You don't actually, hopefully you don't actually say shut up, but I give you the full authority to just shut them down and say, please stop. That's not what we're talking about. And people will respect you as a leader because it's the elephant in the room. If somebody's talking about something nobody wants to talk about, but nobody says anything, everyone's just feeling the tension, like, why are we talking about this? But if you as a leader can have the courage and the boldness to step up and say, we're not going to talk about that now, people will respect you. And conversation will be even more deep because they know what's expected of them. So what do we have? We have set the expectations. 2, follow the 70-30 rule. 3, keep the discussion positive and on track. Number 4, we're almost there. Keep the conversation relevant to everyone. So when you're conversing, sometimes because you're ministers and shepherds of your small group, home church, of your home church, you will have ministry moments. That's the beauty of this. There's times where people need one-on-one ministry. And what I want to say with caution in my heart, but what I want to say is that sometimes in the middle of the group, that's not the time to dive into deep ministry needs. Now, other times it is, but sometimes it's not. Say you have a group of 10 people and one person expresses a deep need. They need prayer. They need ministry. They need everybody to come in to them and minister to them, come around them and minister to them. That's great. And sometimes it's time and sometimes it's not. But if you have 10 people and one person expresses a personal need, then your job as a leader is to navigate and say, is this beneficial for the group to be a part of this ministry? Or do I tell them, hey, let's talk after? And the thing is, if you tell somebody that you want to talk to them afterwards and pray with them and minister to them, that will perk them up in their seat because they'll know I matter. They'll know I matter to this group. I matter to this leader. And it might mean more to them if you take the time later to minister to them than if you do it in the middle of the group. And the thing is, the reason I say this is because if one person is being ministered to and the leader's full attention is on that one person, then you have 9 other people or 8 other people who are just sitting on the sides, and some of them might not be engaged. They might just twiddle their thumbs and they'll say, if this is what the group is going to be like all the time, then I don't want to come back. And that's sad and it's hard to hear because we want everybody to just love ministry all the time. But the truth of the matter is, if something doesn't relate to a person, they might not connect and they might not want to come back. So please, as a leader, navigate carefully. Keep the conversation relevant to everyone. And again, I say, to make it absolutely clear, there are times where it's good for everybody to minister to one person or 2 people, but there's also times where it's most beneficial for the sake of the group to postpone the ministry and say, let's talk afterwards. Okay, so number 1, set the expectations. 2, follow the 70-30 rule. 3, keep the discussion positive and on track. And 4, keep the conversation relevant to everyone. Number 5, last of all, respect boundaries. We at FLCC believe in integrity. We strive, we give everything we have to be integral. We try to keep pure. And what I mean by respect boundaries is at Family Life, we expect you as leaders to minister men with men, women with women, guys with guys, girls with girls. And this is just because there's so much potential for something for something wrong to happen, for something to be misread, misunderstood. There's so much potential for even temptation if there's a guy and a girl together ministering. I mean, those are emotional moments. And it can be potentially harmful, even though it can also be potentially beautiful. It can be potentially harmful and detrimental for a man and a woman to be deeply connecting and deeply ministering to one another. Now, sometimes it's appropriate. So I'm not saying never, ever, 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 but do your best with your amazing discretion to keep guys with guys and girls with girls when it comes to one-on-one ministry. Respect boundaries, because at FLCC, we care about integrity. We care about purity. And as home church leaders, ministers, shepherds, you're part of the FLCC organization. You're part of what we do. You are ministers. You are shepherds carrying the name of FLCC. So please follow this expectation. So what do we have? Our 5 expectations. Set the expectation. Number 1. 2, follow the 70-30 rule. 3, keep the discussion positive and on track. 4, keep the conversation relevant to everyone. And 5, respect boundaries. Those are the 5 expectations that we are expecting of you as leaders. We're asking you as home church leaders, be careful, be conscientious. Think about these things, review them, get them in your head, memorize them so that you know all the time when you're leading, these will create healthy group dynamics. And remember the 3 key aspects. 1, pray. 2, foster communication. And 3, establish trust. When all of these are done well, your group dynamics will flourish. Your group dynamics will be deep. And just like I said earlier, there's no stopping the growth that can happen when there's a healthy group dynamic.